I want you to picture two apartments, same city, same neighborhood, similar rent. The first apartment belongs to someone earning $95,000 per year. Walk inside and you'll find a 75-inch television mounted on the wall, a leather sectional that cost $4,000, a kitchen full of appliances, most still in their original boxes, closets overflowing with clothes, many with tags still attached, a spare bedroom converted into storage for items that haven't been touched in years. This person checks their bank account with a knot in their stomach. They're 2 missed paychecks away from crisis. The second apartment belongs to someone earning $52,000 per year. Walk inside and you'll notice space. A modest couch, a reasonably sized television, a kitchen with exactly the tools that get used regularly, a closet with clothes that actually get worn. The spare bedroom is actually a bedroom. This person checks their bank account with calm confidence. They have 18 months of expenses saved and invest 20% of every paycheck. Same neighborhood, the person earning half as much has nearly 10 times the financial security. This isn't a story about income. It's a story about the hidden relationship between stuff and money. The first person isn't bad with money. They just accumulated a lifestyle that requires every dollar to maintain. The second person discovered something that changed everything. They learned that owning less doesn't mean living worse. It means living deliberately. And deliberate living creates financial margin that most high earners never experience. Today, I'm going to walk you through the minimalist money rules that separate people. These aren't about deprivation. They're about understanding ongoing costs. Let me start with a concept that will reframe how you think about every purchase. Everything you own costs money twice. The first cost is obvious. It's the purchase price, the number on the receipt. But there's a second cost that most people completely ignore, and it's often larger than the first. The second cost includes storage, maintenance, mental energy, and opportunity cost. That treadmill you bought requires space in your home. Space costs money, roughly $30 to $50 per square foot annually. A treadmill takes up about 20 square feet when you account for clearance space. That's $600 to $1,000 per year in implicit rent for equipment that probably hangs clothes. The second cost also includes maintenance and upkeep. That boat sitting in your driveway needs winterization, cleaning, insurance, and repairs. The industry rule of thumb suggests annual maintenance costs run about 10% of the boat's value. A $30,000 boat costs $3,000 per year just to own, even if you never take it on the water. I am not done yet. The second cost includes mental energy too. Every item you own occupies a small slice of your attention. Researchers found that visual clutter increases cortisol and reduces focus. Your stuff is literally stressing you out in ways you can't consciously perceive. Nope. Not over yet. The second cost includes opportunity cost. Every dollar locked up in possessions is a dollar not invested. That $15,000 home gym could have been index funds growing to $50,000 over 15 years. You didn't just buy a home gym, you bought a home gym instead of future financial freedom. When you add up these hidden costs, many possessions cost more to own than they cost to buy. The purchase price is just the entry fee. The ongoing costs continue as long as you possess it. Minimalists understand this intuitively. They're not avoiding possessions because they hate nice things. They're avoiding possessions because they've calculated the true cost and decided most things aren't worth it. This leads to the first rule that minimalists follow religiously. Rule 1. Calculate cost per use before any purchase. Before buying anything, estimate how many times you'll realistically use it. Divide the total cost by that number. This gives you the cost per use, which is the only honest measure of value. A $200 jacket worn twice costs $100 per wear. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is actually cheaper in any meaningful sense. This calculation destroys most impulse purchases immediately. That $300 kitchen gadget you'll use twice a year costs $150 per use. That's an obscenely expensive way to accomplish whatever task it performs. Meanwhile, a $30 tool you use weekly costs less than 60 cents per use. Cost per use also reveals which purchases are genuinely worthwhile. A $2,000 mattress used every night for 10 years costs about 55 cents per use. That's extraordinary value for something affecting your health every single day. A $1,500 espresso machine used daily costs less than $1 per use, likely saving money compared to coffee shop visits. The math cuts through marketing, emotion, and social pressure. It reveals what actually makes financial sense versus what just feels appealing. Rule 2. Apply the replacement test to everything you already own. Walk through your home and look at each item you possess. Ask yourself a simple question. If this item disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest, would you actually go buy another fondue set? Or would you replace that bread maker collecting dust in the cabinet? Would you repurchase those clothes you haven't worn in 18 months? For most items, the honest answer is no. You would not replace them. They exist in your life through inertia, not intention. They were impulse purchases, gifts you felt obligated to keep, or remnants of past hobbies and phases you've moved beyond. These items have negative value. They cost you space, mental energy, and maintenance. Every hour spent organizing or thinking about items you wouldn't replace is an hour stolen. Minimalists ruthlessly eliminate items that fail the replacement test. They sell what has value, donate what someone else could use, and discard what serves nobody. The process feels uncomfortable initially, and then liberating once complete. The psychological weight of owning things you don't want or need is substantial. Removing that weight creates mental space that's difficult to describe, but immediately noticeable. Rooms feel larger, decisions feel simpler. Cleaning takes half the time. You know where everything is, because everything remaining has a purpose. Rule 3. Never upgrade out of boredom. There's a pattern I see constantly among people who earn good incomes but have nothing to show for it. They upgrade perfectly functional items simply because they're bored with them, or because newer versions exist. Their television works perfectly, but the new model has slightly better contrast. Their phone operates flawlessly, but the new release has a marginally improved camera. Their car runs reliably, but the New Year's model has updated styling. Their furniture serves its purpose, but they've grown tired of looking at it. These upgrades feel like improvements. They're actually wealth destruction disguised as progress. Minimalists maintain a strict policy: never replace something that functions properly. The phone that makes calls, sends messages, and runs apps does not need replacement. The car that reliably transports you does not need replacement because the neighbor bought something shinier. This policy saves enormous sums over a lifetime. The average American replaces their phone every 2 to 3 years, while the previous works perfectly. Over 30 years, this pattern costs $30,000 to $50,000 in unnecessary purchases. Applied across all categories, the lifetime waste easily exceeds $200,000. Minimalists escape this trap by defining functional clearly. An item remains functional until it genuinely fails to serve its purpose. Boredom is not failure. Desire for novelty is not failure. The existence of newer alternatives is not failure. Actual mechanical breakdown or inability to perform tasks is failure. Everything else is marketing, convincing you to solve problems you don't have. Rule 4. Create friction for spending and ease for saving. Human behavior follows the path of least resistance. If spending is easy and saving is difficult, you'll spend. If saving is easy and spending is difficult, you'll save. Minimalists engineer their environment to make the right choice. the easy choice. Spending friction looks like removing stored credit card numbers from online retailers, requiring a 24-hour waiting period before any non-essential purchase. Deleting shopping apps from your phone, unsubscribing from promotional emails. Saving ease looks like automating your investments so the money leaves your account before you can touch it. It's using apps that round up your change and invest it automatically. It's keeping your emergency fund in a separate bank that takes 3 days to transfer funds. By the time you get the money, the impulse to spend it has usually faded. Friction is your best friend when it comes to financial discipline. Every second of effort required to spend money is a second for your rational brain to intervene. Rule 5. Value experiences over objects. Human beings adapt to physical objects remarkably fast. This is known as hedonic adaptation. The new car smell disappears within weeks. The excitement of the new phone fades after 3 days. The high-end furniture becomes just something you sit on. But experiences don't work that way. A trip, a concert, a dinner with friends, a class where you learn a new skill, these things don't sit in your house taking up space. They sit in your mind as memories that actually increase in value over time. Psychologists have found that the anticipation of an experience creates more happiness than the anticipation of a purchase. And the reflection on an experience creates more lasting satisfaction than the possession of an object. Minimalists spend their money on memories rather than inventory. They travel more, learn more, and connect more because they aren't paying for storage and maintenance. They are rich in stories while the high earner in the first apartment is rich in cardboard boxes. When you value experiences, your world expands. When you value objects, your world shrinks to the size of your house. Rule 6. Practice the one-in, one-out rule. To prevent the slow creep of clutter, maintain a constant volume of possessions. If you buy a new pair of shoes, an old pair must leave. If you buy a new book, an old book gets donated. If you upgrade your laptop, the old one is sold or recycled immediately. This creates a natural ceiling for your lifestyle. It forces you to evaluate every new acquisition against what you already own. Is this new item better than the one I'm going to lose? Most of the time, the answer is no, and the purchase never happens. Rule 7. Understand the life cycle of your possessions. Everything you own is on a journey towards becoming trash. This isn't being cynical, it's being realistic. The day you buy it is the day it starts to break, wear out, or become obsolete. Minimalists choose items that have a slow journey toward the trash can. They prioritize quality and durability because they don't want to spend their lives managing the replacement cycle. Buying a high-quality item once is cheaper and less stressful than buying a low-quality item 5 times. Rule 8. Practice the wait-and-see technique for repairs. When something breaks, don't rush to replace it immediately. Live without it for a week. See if your life actually gets worse. Often, you'll find that the essential item wasn't so essential after all. You save the replacement cost and you gain back the space and mental energy. Rule 9. Ignore the social pressure to upgrade. We live in a culture designed to make you feel inadequate if you don't have the latest version. The neighbor's new car, the friend's kitchen remodel, the influencer's new wardrobe. These are all signals designed to trigger your lack response. Minimalists recognize these signals as noise. They understand that someone else's spending has zero impact on their own well-being. Status is a game where the only way to win is to not play. They decide to win the money game by playing a different game. Rule 10. Pay in cash for non-essential items. This is one of the most powerful minimalism rules, yet the hardest to follow, because it forces you to feel the pain of spending. Psychologists have found that paying with plastic, credit cards, dulls the brain's pain response. The transaction feels abstract, like a future problem. But when you pay with physical cash, your brain registers the loss immediately. You are physically separating yourself from your resources. This pain is a feature, not a bug. It's a built-in safety mechanism designed to make you hesitate. If you have to pay $300 in cash for that new gadget, you will think differently. You will think, is this worth 3 crisp $100 bills? Most of the time, the answer is no, and you will walk away with your cash. This rule also forces you to prioritize. If you only have $500 in your non-essential cash envelope, you have to choose. You can't have the $400 dinner and the $300 new shoes. You are limited by your actual resources, not your credit limit. Minimalists calculate the time it takes to earn the money for a purchase. If an item costs $200 and you earn $20 per hour, that item costs 10 hours of your life. Is this gadget worth 10 hours of working? 10 hours you'll never get back. Thinking in time, not just money, changes everything. It connects your possessions directly to your mortality. It makes you value your finite time more than fleeting possessions. Paying in cash and calculating cost in hours are two sides of the same coin. They are both mechanisms to reconnect you with the reality of spending. Minimalism is not about having nothing. It's about making room for everything that matters. It's about trading the clutter for clarity, trading the stress for security, and trading the cardboard boxes for a life of purpose. The high earner in the first apartment isn't stuck because they don't have enough money. They're stuck because they've built a cage out of their possessions. The minimalist in the second apartment is free because they've learned to value their margin. They've learned that wealth isn't the total of what you own. It's the distance between your income and your lifestyle. The wider that gap, the more freedom you have. Freedom to leave a job you hate. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to travel the world. Freedom to spend a Tuesday afternoon doing absolutely nothing. You don't need to earn 6 figures to experience this. You just need to stop letting your stuff own you. Start with the first rule. Calculate the cost per use. Apply the replacement test. Create friction for your spending, and slowly, you'll notice the weight lifting. You'll notice the bank account growing. But more importantly, you'll notice the peace returning. Minimalism isn't about giving things up. It's about getting your life back. Because at the end of the day, you can't take the 75-inch TV with you. But you can take the person you became along the way. Choose freedom over stuff every single time.